All right. Oh, can we all hear that? Okay. Um, Again, my name is Cindy Allen, and I am one of 3 graphic designers that work here on the Athens campus and have the distinction of being what I like to call the logo popo. So in terms of using our college and extension logos, I'm sort of the person that polices all that and also can help anybody that needs help with that sort of thing. So keep that in mind for future reference. My contact info will be at the end of all this. Let's talk a little bit about branding and why we should do it in the first place. Branding applies to all sorts of things. It's everywhere. I'm sure you recognize a few of these brands. And what these folks are trying to do is stand out from the crowd and let you know that they're here and that they want to be here for you and they would like you to use their services. We're not much different than that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I always like to use the Target logo as an example of branding that's really so effective that it doesn't need any words. You know, who would think that a red dot or basically a circle would be so identifiable that you can only see a piece of it and you know exactly who it is and what they're doing. For us, it's important to brand because we want people to identify with us as well. And part of the way we do that is by having something that people can identify with that's what I like to call a stamp of some sort. These programs exist to communicate the character and reputation of an institution, and they also will unify the communications of the organization. So in extension, for example, whether it be the Master Gardener program or any of the other things that are happening through extension, we really want people to know, the end user to know that those things are coming out of extension, and the more that we can get that message across, the more that people are aware that extension is important in their everyday lives. And when it comes to things like budget cuts that we all love to talk about, it's really great if our constituents know who we are so that they can go to bat for us. And that's one really important reason to brand. And that's one important reason that we like to be associated with the University of Georgia, because it is such a strong brand. The cornerstone of any visual identity program and a key to successful branding is an institution's logo, which is also, you'll hear me use these words interchangeably, a mark. So here I have one of the university's logos, and I think it's important to keep in mind for all of us that we're all a part of the University of Georgia, and we want to kind of have that message out there so that we can unify ourselves when it comes to communicating with the public. I don't know how many of you guys actually work with the university's logos, but I wanted you to be aware of this particular website that you can go to, which has all of the identity information for the university itself. Talks about the usage of the logos and what's correct to do, what's not correct to do, and that sort of thing. So as you're looking through these slides, just keep in mind that there are going to be some references in here that might be good to help you down the road. I wanted to show you, this is a part of that page where you can see that the different iterations of the logo are there for you to see and to use and to download. There's also information on that website about our official university colors and that sort of thing. The person that's in charge of the university's logos and the policies surrounding them is Allison Huff. This is her contact information now. One thing you should know in terms of what's going on at the university is in the past there's been a real separation of what is our academic logo, which is the arch that you see here, and then, of course, the Georgia G that has been primarily used by athletics. In the past, those have been very clearly separated, and now there's been some pressure to sort of see that Georgia G on some things that are not necessarily athletics. While we don't really encourage this, nor does Allison, there are some instances where that has been approved. But again, there are special things you have to go through to have that used on anything. So if anybody thinks about using that Georgia G, please go ahead and just contact me personally, and we can talk about that. What I mainly want to talk to you about today are our logos, meaning the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences logos and the extension logos. Just as a logo is the cornerstone of a well-crafted identity program, the university's arch can be considered the cornerstone of both our college's logo and the extension logo. The arch, along with the use of the university's official typeface, combined to create both of our logos, extension and the College of Ag. And this just kind of goes back to that idea of the University of Georgia is our overarching, no pun intended, entity. And we want to be associated with them. And so we use colors, typefaces, graphic elements, i.e. the arch, to tie in with the university and yet brand ourselves. For anybody who would like to know, the official type family of the university is Galliard. It is what the words the University of Georgia are written in most of its iterations in terms of logo usage. And sometimes it's used in the body text for a lot of university publications. So just a fun fact if you would like to know that. This slide is showing you the iterations of our college's logo. The logo that you see on top, we call that the three-stack logo, is our sort of logo of choice, if you will. And that's the one that we like to brand most of our college's materials with. The one in the center is actually reserved for more formal uses, say an award or a formal invitation, things like that. And then the logo at the bottom, which is nice and long, the purpose of that is to just have a solution for folks who need to do something really large and long. For example, say a 16-foot banner, something like that. We generally try to stay away from using this sort of thing on printed pieces unless the format of that really dictates that. So for those of you who use the college's logo as opposed to the extension logo, this one on the top is the preferred iteration of that. These are the new extension logos, are relatively new. Some of you may have materials that have the old logo stuff on them, and that's perfectly fine. We don't want you throwing those out, but once you do have the opportunity to put things on new materials, we would like you to use this new logo. And yes, Brock, there are printed guidelines. There's going to be a website here I'm going to direct you to that you can go to, and I can also send you this show at the end. Okay, so back to this new logo. There are two sort of standard looks of this. The one at the top associates both the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences and the College of Family and Consumer Sciences, of which extension is a part of both of these. We really try not to use this one too much. We're trying to simplify things a little bit, and so It's really this bottom one in this case that we want to see used on folks' materials. The one on the top, we use it sometimes for, say, if we're going to a trade show and we're making big window shade banners, something that's really large where that type can show on the bottom, and maybe we're sponsoring things with other people. That might be a typical use of this. But we'd really like to encourage you, when you're using the logos, to use the one that you see on the bottom here. Okay, this is a little bit in response to Brock's question. On our college's website, the website you see here, you're going to be able to download these logos in most cases, and you're going to be able to read about all kinds of guidelines about how to use them and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what file formats are good for you to use in certain situations. And the main purpose of my presentation today is to go over some of those things and maybe clarify some stuff that might be confusing to people who are not particularly art folks or design folks or publication folks. So again, this is our overarching website here. And there are very similar websites. This one talks about extension logos and policies, and we've just broken them out. Most of the policies are the same, but we just have those two separate areas for people to look at so they can go specifically to either extension logos or the college's logos. What I'd like to talk to you about now is file formats for logos, because this is an area where people tend to have a lot of confusion or angst. So when you go to our website and you want to download one of these logos, you're going to see two file formats. One of them is EPS and the other one is JPEG, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the differences in those and when you should use one versus the other. And again, this is on our website. Okay, first, the EPS logo. What you need to know about that is, number one, if you're producing materials that you're going to have done anywhere else besides you're printing them off of your own printer, if you're sending something to a t-shirt vendor or a printer or anybody outside of your little area, EPS files are the industry standard for sending logos to people. What EPS stands for is encapsulated postscript, if anybody cares about that. But what's important about these files, this is the really critical thing, and I'll talk about a little more, is it's a vector-based file. And what that means is that when the programs are generating that logo, they're doing it based on math. So every time you enlarge that, they're calculating a mathematical equation. And what that means is that an EPS logo is infinitely scalable. And what I mean by that is you can take that EPS logo from our website and you can put it on a postage stamp or you can put it on the side of the building. And either one of those is going to be clear and crisp. It makes no difference how large or small it is other than smallness for readability. So if you wanted a billboard, for example, it would make no difference that you blew that up to the size of the billboard. It would stay perfectly clear. The other thing to know about EPS files is that they have a transparent background. And what's important about that is that you can put them on colors. So if you had a brochure that was red and you wanted a white logo on there, you would see the white logo, but you wouldn't see a white box around it.